you bleed green? Are you an ultimate Eagles football fan? Well, you're in the right place. Ready? This is Birds 365, hosted by the new Mac and Mac, Jody McDonald and John McMullen.
Here we go.
Who collectively have covered and talked about more than 50 plus years of Eagles football. Kick off your day with Birds 365. You'll get debate.
We love to argue.
You'll get the real story from inside the locker room. And you'll hear from some of the great football minds from around the region. You're about to become an Eagles insider. Get in the game. Join Jody Mack and Johnny Mack and join the football community that flocks to Birds 365. Birds 365 starts right now.
Welcome to the NFL. Let's go. Go.
Oh, it might be a little overcast in the Delaware Valley, but that's the weather. That's not the emotions of the football fans here in the Delaware Valley. You got your Mac and Mac guys, John McMullen and Jody McDonald. Here we are on Birds 365. The Final Four in the National Football League is set, and the Philadelphia Eagles are part of it because of the beatdown they put on the New York Giants on Saturday at Lincoln Financial Field. Johnny Mac, you and I leading up to the game all week, we're certainly leaning toward the Eagles and believing the Eagles are going to win. Maybe I had a little more consternation because I didn't know if Jalen Hurts was going to be close enough to 100% or what the Eagle play calling was going to be like. By about 4 minutes into that game, I said, all right, this one's over. The New York Giants are not winning this football game. And, man, did the Eagles continue to pile on.
Yeah, they did. You know, the mythical complete game, which doesn't exist, but that's as complete as you can get. Especially that late in the season, the divisional round of the playoffs, you're supposed to be facing some significant opposition. But, yeah, I kind of knew that the Eagles' entire offense was going to be on the table. So any consternation I had was only about Jalen's health. I knew they were going to have the whole playbook, and he was healthy enough, to say the least. So, yeah, I mean, the Giants just don't match up with the Eagles, and it's always about matchups in this league, and it'll be a much more difficult matchup this upcoming week. The two best teams will be on the field as they should be in the NFC for the NFC Championship, and we'll have some serious discussion on who should win this game as we go through the week. Giants, no, not ready to compete in any way with this team, and yeah, that was a complete beatdown to the point where the Giants probably wish they could invent time travel, go back, lose to Minnesota, so they wouldn't have to go through that. That's how bad it was.
I don't know if they believe that or not, but I did say this on my CBS show on Saturday night. After the Saturday night results, Dougie P and the Jags hanging in with the Kansas City Chiefs, but coming up short, and Patrick Mahomes pulling some miracles on one leg for the Chiefs to get them back in the AFC Championship game. Only the fifth consecutive year for Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes going to the AFC Championship game. That's pretty damn impressive. But then after the Eagle beatdown of the Giants, for me, Saturday night was a win-win-win-win. If you're the Philadelphia Eagles, before the season started, Super Bowl aspirations, but they weren't the favorite or anything like that. But you go 14-3. Oh, yeah, you're banking on being in at least the championship game, if not the Super Bowl. So their expectations got reset as the year went on. So they had to win. They needed to win. They won handily. The same for the Kansas City Chiefs. The 4 straight years in the championship game. Oh, you better believe they're banking on going to a fifth. They are. So they won. I actually thought it was a win for the Jags and the Giants. The Jaguars are the worst team in the National Football League the season before. They had the number 1 pick.
Oh, yeah, as a whole, yeah. I mean, it's very emotional when you lose at the end of the season. And I was, joking a little bit with the time travel. But yeah, I mean, overall, the Giants exceeded just about everyone's expectations. And the only people they didn't exceed were the unrealistic ones. I
Right.
mean, everybody thought they were in rebuild mode, and rightfully so by the way they were acting in the offseason. All of a sudden, here they come and not only make the playoffs, but win a game. Overall, yeah, tremendous season for the Giants. Even more so for Jacksonville, I would argue, just because of how deep in a hole they were after the Urban Meyer fiasco, and how down and out that organization was, and to go, win a division title, even though it's a bad division, and go into the playoffs and have one of the largest comebacks in playoff history. And they lost to a team, as you mentioned, all the consecutive championship games and significant favorites to go back again, and so dominant. The Giants weren't expected to win either. But people started the tropes of it's difficult to win 3 times against a team of, oh, it's hard to play a division rival. They're always closer. So you had all those kind of tropes mixed in from that standpoint. People talk themselves into things. But yeah, both teams should be very happy with their overall seasons. No question about it.
Saturday, that was the case. Yesterday, not so much. The Buffalo Bills were the preseason favorite to win the whole thing, not just the AFC, but the Super Bowl itself. And they are no longer playing after the beatdown they took at the hands of Cincinnati yesterday. And the Dallas Cowboys, whose expectations are always Super Bowl or bust. Been bust
Yeah,
for
well,
5 years.
yeah.
We got
Those expectations are usually unrealistic.
yeah, a little bit, Cowboy fans. Sorry about that. They get beat by the Niners last night. So the Niners and the Cincinnati Bengals certainly had wins yesterday on the field and compared to expectations. But there's no way you can justify the Bills getting beat at home.
And that was the worst loss to me. I mean, San Francisco was a better team. I know how Dallas people feel, but I thought they played well enough to win in most areas except the quarterback, to be honest, Dallas. But, the quarterback laid an egg in a big spot, and, the 49ers are a very good team. The Bills were in a situation where, look, they've been through a lot with Damar Hamlin, no question about that. But you have a home game, you have a team you're facing down 3 offensive linemen, and they just got beat up. They got beat up. That, to me, was the worst loss of the divisional round. Now, obviously, it was the home team who was the favorite, so it kind of makes some sense. But, yeah, I mean, Buffalo, those flaws showed up during the season. They're way too Josh Allen centric. They throw the ball too much. He's a little bit too reckless. I think their defense is a little bit overrated, especially since they lost Von Miller.
Yep.
And they've obviously had some issues at safety. And the pass rush wasn't there. But, to go into a home game and the visitor is down 3 starting offensive linemen, boy, that's putting it on the tee. And they not only got beat, they got dominated, Jody.
Yep.
So that was a terrible performance by Buffalo.
They got and oh, by the way, in a weather game, I know Cincinnati is not exactly Amarillo, Texas.
Yeah.
They know how to deal with the off weather, but nobody's supposed to be better at it than the Buffalo Bills. You got snow everywhere, and Cincinnati looked like the team that was sitting at home, other than Buffalo, and they got no pressure on Joe Burrow. With 3 backup offensive linemen in there, Joe Burrow had all day to sit back and pick whoever
I feel bad. I gave, when Scott Grayson was here last week, I gave, props, and I gave over 5 sacks because Joe Burrow likes to hold on to the football. He likes to make plays. So you have that baked in, and then they were down 3 offense. The Bills were just unbelievable poor performance from their perspective.
That one's going to take a while to get over. The Giants and Jags can get over their loss pretty quickly when they take a step back. It's not going to happen for the Bills fans out there. But the Bills fans, sorry about that. the thing that matters now is the Philadelphia Eagle fans. And after the beatdown they put on the Giants on Saturday, this town has to be oozing with confidence, with not only the fact that the Eagles put up the regular season record that they did, a couple of Gardner Minshew losses included in there. Jalen Hurts is 15-1 in games that he started this year, which is off the chain good. They dispensed with a rival while they were at it. I know some people wanted the Cowboys to win and be able to just clean sweep the division here in the postseason. Yeah, I didn't think that was going to happen. I thought the 49ers were going to win. That was actually even above and beyond the Eagles, my strongest play. I thought the 49ers were going to win handily. And they didn't. To Dallas's credit, they played good defense. But the 49ers made the plays late in the game. That's why you want to host those games, to have the crowd behind you. And I think the crowd helped the 49ers yesterday. But that being said, yeah, the Eagles had the easier matchup. The Giants were not as big a test for them as the Cowboys were for the 49ers. The Eagles just have to one of my few fears that I have as of right now, 6 days out, is a little overconfidence, because it was just too easy for the Eagles against the Giants this week. And the 49ers had to cling to that lead late in that game just to advance in this game. They're a well-coached team. They're a smart team. They've got great veteran leadership and a great leader on the offense in Jalen Hurts, but a little natural emotion to maybe be a little overconfident after the complete domination.
I think maybe from the fan base's perspective. I don't think from the Eagles' perspective. You know, they've been, and I think it stems from, you know, Jalen Hurts, but not only Jalen, some of the other veteran leaders that have been here for a while, the Kelseys, the Lane Johnsons, the Brandon Grahams, Fletcher Coxes, players like that, who know what it takes to go this far and know what it takes. You know, from my perspective, it's the exact opposite. Like, you know, if you struggled with the Giants, you know, then I'd say, oh, I got some issues. But they just completely. I think Brian, you and I talk about this probably too much, but I think Brian Daboll lost the game with the coin toss. I think that was just where I think he lost the game. I think the game was over. I mean, you need to shorten the game. This is where you and I differ. When you're the better team, always defer. Always, 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 always. When you need to shorten the game and you know you're out, man, you take that stinking football. You hope you can develop a drive, 7-8 minute drive. And let's be honest, that's that's what everybody complains about with JG. You know, he's willing to give up the underneath stuff. So take the underneath stuff, get that 13 play drive, take 8 minutes off the clock, get a touchdown. All of a sudden, it's 7-0. You shorten the game and you say, we're in this thing. They probably still lose, but yeah, we're in this thing. I literally, and it's only a little bit, I shouldn't say literally, a little bit of hyperbole. They lost that game on the coin toss in that decision. And the Eagles went right down the field, dominated from there. Jalen Hurts showed off, not only going 5 for 5, but he showed the shrink wrap was off. The zone read mechanics were back. They didn't know what to do defensively. Yeah, I mean, from minute one, as I say, complete games are a myth. They don't exist. And I joked on Twitter. I even asked some of the fans, they gave up that 39 yards to Saquon Barkley in the second half. When the game was so far over by that point, who cares?
Right. Complete
games don't exist. That was as close as you will ever see to a complete game in the NFL.
Well, I'm glad to hear you at least say that there should be some thought that goes into whether you defer or take the ball, that the Giants would have been well advised to put some thought into it and actually say, oh, no, why didn't you give us the ball first rather than us play defense first? That's my only point, is that there should be some thought given to the actual matchup and the two teams that are on the field and what your strengths are and the other, rather than just rote. The coin goes up, we win, we defer. And I feel at times Eagles do that. So that's my only knock. I'll give you one spot where I will undoubtedly agree with the Philadelphia Eagles. If they play the 49ers, we know they're going to play the 49ers this week. And if after 60 minutes it's tied and they send the captains out for the coin toss, if the Eagles win the coin toss, they absolutely have to defer. It was right up Nick Sirianni's alley. Win that coin toss and defer, because remember, in a new NFL
they changed the
postseason,
rules. Yeah.
overtime rules, everybody gets a possession. So just in case you allow a touchdown on that first possession, you want to go second, because then you know what you got to do. You get to play 4 downs rather than 3 downs. You don't have to face that ball 4th and 6 at the 45-yard. Do you go for it? Do you punt? You want to wipe that off the table. You know that if you get the stop, if you defer, you get the stop. Boom! All you got to do is kick a field goal. It's over. If you give up a touchdown, you know you got all 4 downs, and you got to get a touchdown yourself. So that one is predetermined, pre-decided.
Yeah.
Any idiot that doesn't defer in an overtime position in the playoffs should be fired immediately. I guarantee you, Nick Sirianni.
Yeah, I said the same thing in Tampa last year with the game. The Eagles should have taken the football. When you're the better team. When I say when you're the better team, the problem with the Eagles this year is they're always the better team, so they should always defer. It's not rote. It's if you're the better team. They happen to always be the better team.
How many times have the Eagles won the coin toss and said, give us the ball?
From their perspective, I'm saying from my perspective, they've always been the better team. So I have had no issue with it this year. They've always been the better team. And we'll see. Now it's the first discussion with San Francisco. But, yeah, they overreacted to the overtime issues last year's playoffs. They changed the rules. So now it's more of a college-like environment where you want to know. It's better to go second because you want to know what you have to do, unless you give up that massive drive and you have no time. I guess you could argue that. But, yeah, you want to know what you have to do. And so things have changed in the overreaction. Don't even get me started with the NFL. Their constant overreaction. Oh, how are you going to deal with Kansas City and Buffalo? How are you going to deal? Buffalo's not even there. Buffalo's not even there. Joe Burrow dealt with them. Kansas City's always there, but Patrick Mahomes is going to be playing on a high ankle sprain. I don't even know how you could do that, but we're going to see. We're going to see how taped up and how he can do it and move forward. Such an overreaction to that rule change and over legislation constantly with this league. It bothers me.
And oh, by the way, I think it's legit to talk about it because these two teams are so evenly matched. They're different in a couple aspects. There are aspects where the 49ers are better than the Eagles. There are aspects where the Eagles are better than the 49ers. But just matching up the two rosters, damn close between these two teams. So talking about a potential overtime on Sunday afternoon is not outrageous at all. All right, you got McMullen and McDonald, your Maga Mac Birds 365 guys talking about the Final Four of the NFL Eagles championship game bound this Sunday against the 49ers. We'll talk about the Eagles matchup against the Giants, the 49ers win against the Cowboys, how we got here with our first guest. Coming up next, one of the all-time best Eagles reporters. He's doing it these days still for the 33rd team, and also us here at JAKIBSports.com. Damo's next. Paul Domowitz joins us here on Birds 365.
My name is Fran Salerno. I'm a managing director here at Del Valle Insurance Group. Been in the business for over 36 years, saving people money on their insurance needs. Give us a call. Let us help you custom design an insurance plan that meets both your needs and budget.
Since 1977, it's always been about you, the community, at Rafferty Subaru. And through the Subaru Love Promise, we prove we care by supporting charities like So Good Now.
So Good Now helps kids in under-resourced areas by connecting them with student athletes to serve as mentors. We remove barriers so athletes can help youth in the corners of our communities where light and love are needed most.
When you choose Rafferty Subaru, you help organizations like So Good Now.
It's all about you at Rafferty Subaru.
Go for the beers, go for the cheers, go for the hit and the hits. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean.
We all know that taxes are just part of life. It's true during our working years, but also in retirement. But what you might not know is up to 85% of your Social Security benefits might be taxed. Our team at Thrive Financial has helped retire thousands of people across the Delaware Valley by asking questions they never knew they needed to ask, including how their Social Security benefits might be taxed. It's time to be proactive on taxes. Get your Thrive Retirement Tax Playbook today.
Game show with Seth Joyner.
I knew that they had a running game.
Derek Gunn.
He has put in the effort.
Devin Caney.
Had we not won the Super Bowl, what would we be saying?
And Mike Missinelli.
Well, you know who Philly is.
Post game, now streaming on the 6ABC family of apps.
Morning after a championship game lockdown appearance. Here on Birds 365, John McMullen and Jody McDonald, joined by our buddy, Paul Domwich, who looks like he's ready to talk some championship game football. PD, how'd you enjoy your weekend?
Enjoyed it a lot, Jody. Enjoyed it a lot.
There might be some championship game credentials on that wall, I think, Damo. You've been to a few. Yeah.
You won't be honored at the link, though.
Fair enough. Dom, I know that you've seen it, and most of our streamers have seen it. The comparison between Saturday's game and the one that was played to the day 5 years previously that you were at and had a pass to get into and viewed with your own two eyes. Same exact score, the Giants beat down and the Minnesota Vikings loss in the NFC Championship game. I'll go this far. This week's game was even more domination because the Eagles did it from the jump. At least in that game, the Vikings gave you a fight in the first quarter. The Giants didn't even do that. This was a one-punch knockout on Saturday night, Damo.
Yeah, I mean, I thought the game would be a little bit closer, but the Eagles did everything they needed to do. They jumped out early, like you said. They were much better in the red zone than they were in that last game of the season against the Giants. They were incredible on third down. I mean, it was never a game. I mean, it was just complete domination.
Yeah, it's been such a dominating season for the Eagles. I mean, with Jalen Hurts in the lineup, I mean, they lost one game and they argued they beat themselves. So they'll spin it as they're undefeated with the starting quarterback. It almost doesn't feel like an NFC Championship game for me, Damo, because once it became, halfway through the season, you almost expected them to be here. And now that they're here, it seems like that is where we're supposed to be. So do you have that normal juice, or do you just expect this team's that good? They should be here. What else were we expecting?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and same thing with San Francisco. I mean, you expected these two teams to be playing each other. They clearly were the two best teams in the NFC. With Cowboys always were a wild card. They were inconsistent all season. I mean, so I always thought it would at the end their road to the Super Bowl would they'd have to beat San Francisco.
One of the things that I have to admit after the fact that maybe I didn't give the Eagles enough credit for coming into the game, and I didn't win them by double digits, just not the massive blowout that we witnessed, because of Lane Johnson playing through the injury that he had. Even though I said here on Birds 365, I had more confident. I was about, we throw these percentages around. I was about 98% confident on Lane Johnson. I was only about 90% confident on Jalen Hurts. The Eagles' offensive line just pushed the Giants. The Eagles' offensive line pushed the Giants' defensive line around. Miles Sanders had massive holes to run through. When they went to Boston and Scott down by the goal line, that was just money people handed to you with the Boston Scott touchdown. Gainwell late. How dominant was the Eagle offensive line on Saturday night, Damo?
It was impressive, and especially when you consider the injuries. I mean, I don't know how Lane Johnson did what he did. I mean, you saw him early in the game limping. I thought Driscoll was going to be in there by the beginning of the second quarter. Instead, Lane Johnson plays the whole game, does not give up a sack, a pressure. It's part of that run offense. Just
27 times, Damo. 27 times at pass pro. Okay, Bob Thibodeau. Oh, Aziz Ojala. Nothing with a torn groin muscle. Not one pressure. Not one quarterback hit. It's pretty amazing. Nick has that hyperbole, and he says best right tackle in the world. He's the best right tackle in the world, and it's not particularly close.
I give the coaching staff credit. I've criticized them at times this season for not playing more 12 and 13 personnel when they had Driscoll out there. Well, yesterday they played 2 or 3 tight ends 52% of the time, I think, by my count. So, I mean, they were giving Lane help. They were, and I think we'll see the same thing against San Francisco, against that defense. I mean, you can't play. I don't think you can afford to play much 11 against them. They'll pick their spots, but I mean, they need those tight ends to help block, to help the run game. So,
but let me ask you this, Dama. Was that more about helping Lane, or was that more about Shane Steichen knowing he could just run the football down their throat? Because they run they run for 268, and it was not only Jack Stoll, it was also Zach Pascal. So to me, he played more than Quez Watkins. So to me, they came in with that game plan, like we're gonna rip this team on the ground. Do you think it was a little, because they don't help their tackle? Let's be honest. When Jordan was hurt, Jordan Mailata, early in the season, he was banged up with the shoulder. They didn't help him. They don't help their tackles typically when they need to throw the ball, but I don't think they needed to throw the ball.
I think it was a little of both, but they also knew that when they did have to throw the ball, they were going to be facing, Martindale's blitzes. So it helps to have, some extra blockers. It'll be interesting to see what they do this week, how they attack that defense, because that's one, as Dallas found out, that's one really good defense.
Yeah, this is a step up, as they say. No question about it. Our old buddy D'Amico Ryans. He was such a smart guy as a player. Chip Kelly would rave about him. And he's turned into such a good coordinator. But man, it helps to have talent. Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, they are loaded, the San Francisco 49ers. A little bit of a surprise. Eagles, I guess Vegas opened 1.5 or 2, depending where you look. And that usually you get 3 points as a home team. So that says, Vegas thinks San Francisco is a little bit better. You surprised by that?
No, I thought it would be, no more than 3, certainly. The fact that they maybe feel, the 49ers coming in here as a favorite, at least as a betting favorite, that doesn't surprise me a lot. But I mean, the one factor here, which is going to be interesting, is Brock Purdy, a rookie coming into a venue like this. I thought there was an interesting number I saw somewhere. His win-loss record in college, home and away, was just night and day.
Yeah,
I don't know
what
it means. Maybe it means
10
nothing.
13 on the road. I think 21-4 at home. But
yeah,
it's college.
He's played 2 road games so far, only in the as a starter in the NFL. So I mean, playing in the link with this crowd is, well, it's like nothing you're going to face. So I mean, the key to this game is going to be the key to every game for them. They've got to grab the lead early. I mean, you grab the lead and make San Francisco play from behind, they're a different team. I mean, they have to, Kyle Shanahan has to, think about doing things he ordinarily wouldn't. So, including have Purdy throw more. So, I think that's going to be a key Sunday.
And the Eagle defense that Brock Purdy will be facing, man, were they dominant. I know that offense grabs attention and headlines and everything else, but the first 5 possessions for the Giants, out on downs, which John and I debated at the top of the show, did Brian Daboll lose the game when he decided to kick off rather than take the ball first? It could have been that early, or it certainly was locked out after he decided to go for it on 4th down and they got sacked again. Oh, yeah, give the Eagles a short field. That's a good idea, trailing 7-0. Over on downs, second play in the drive, a pick by Bradbury, 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. How do you get any better than that? First 5 possessions, down on downs, an interception, and 3 and outs on a punt. The Eagle defense, and shame on me, at least, I'll take my own blame here. They're not getting enough credit. Jonathan Gannon, as good as Shane Steichen's game plan was, Jonathan Gannon's was just as good on defense.
It was. Let's remember, though, this week they're facing a team with a lot more weapons than the Giants had.
Very true.
But it was great. I mean, it's all good. I mean, defensively for the Eagles, it's coming down to that pass rush. I mean, if they can do what they did this past week against the Niners offensive line and put pressure on Purdy, it's a different game. But they're playing against a team with a great, probably the best play action offense in the league. How do they deal with that? They can't allow the 49ers to control the ball. And this is a team that I think has the second best time of possession average in the league, but that you don't want to get into a game like you did in that second Washington game where you can't get the ball back, where every one of your possessions is like, we got to do something because we can't give it back to them. We'll never see it again. So, that's going to be they can't let them control the ball. They've got to put a stop. They're not going to put a stop to that running game, but they've certainly got to slow it down. They can't allow Christian McCaffrey and Debo and those guys to go crazy.
Yeah, I think, Damo, this is going to be a big tackling game. And the Eagles, one of the things they didn't do very well early in the season, probably the only thing besides special teams, was tackle. Starting really week 1 in Detroit, they had a really bad game. They were really bad in Arizona, really bad in Houston. And then I think Houston was the last game. And then it was like second half of the season. They were pretty damn good tackling. All of a sudden the light went off. But man, when Christian McCaffrey and George Kittle and Debo Samuel and on and on and on, and Brandon Ayuk, these guys are yak machines. If you don't make that first tackle, you got a problem. I think because and Kyle wants the football out of Brock Purdy's hands early, and I think that only increases on the road at Lincoln Financial Field. So it's going to be a lot of quick stuff. And if the Eagles tackle well, I think they win the game. But if they don't, it could get ugly quickly.
Yeah, and San Francisco's strength in their passing game is between the hashes.
Oh yeah,
that middle of the field, which the Eagles have often been vulnerable in that area this season. Getting C.J. Gardner-Johnson back certainly is helpful, but I mean they've got to take away that part of the field from San Francisco and make Purdy throw, towards the sideline, make him make longer throws.
Yeah.
Whether they can do that, I don't know. I mean, Kittle's as good as they faced all season.
Yeah.
And
By the way, I remember when I first alerted Eagles fans to how good George Kittle was. I remember it because Zach Ertz was having the big year, and I whispered, George Kittle's the best tight end in football. I never got so much hate in my life. Never got an apology, Dom, out there. Never got an apology. Still the best tight end in football.
This guy is so cool under pressure.
Yeah.
I mean, during the game or late in the game or after the game, he spotted the sky camera.
Yeah. He's having fun out there.
And he's smiling like who's thinking about that? In a key playoff game. But that's George.
He is a great player. He really is.
I know that he's the best balanced tight end, but I'll take Kelsey's receiving to surpass the total packet. He is so much the best receiver that I would put him slightly ahead of George Kittle, even though Kittle's a blocker, which Kelsey never has been. But he's just what Kelsey does offensively is unbelievable. Let me ask you about this. You mentioned that Purdy was only okay. Yes, he wasn't near as good as he has been. But, man, he's got him hanging. You talk about throwing between the hashes. That was all the plays he made yesterday. It seemed to me like Dallas was trying to defend it. He was threading the needle in there, taking chances, throwing into tight windows, and getting the football to McCaffrey, to Kittle. He made some nervy plays yesterday for a guy who's 8 games into his NFL career.
I would argue too nervy. I would argue too. This is what I've been saying, Joe.
Too nervy. He's 8-0.
Yeah, I know.
How is that too nervy?
Well, I find this ironic, Damo. This is going to go on all week because I don't believe in Brock Purdy, but I picked the 49ers to go to the Super Bowl in the preseason. So I'm like weighing, all right, what am I going to do here? Am I going to stick to my guns? Jody picked the Eagles to go to the preseason, but he loves Brock Purdy. And I'm like, I just don't believe in him. And I certainly don't believe in him at Lincoln Financial Field in January. These people are going to be brutal to him. I don't think he's going to know what hit him. And he throws those footballs over the middle of the field, and I'm like holding my breath. I don't even care who wins the game. And I'm like, oh my God, is he doing it again? And he keeps succeeding and succeeding. You got to give him credit. But boy, I don't trust him in this spot. Am I crazy to not trust Brock Purdy?
You would think he's got to come down to earth at some point, but he needs help. He needs help from the defense to make him come down to earth. I mean, that run game he's got to, he's never been in a situation since they made him the starter where he's had to carry this team. I mean, that's just not the way they're built. And so you've got to make him have to carry more of the load. You have to put him in more third and long situations where, and then you let that pass rush do the rest. I mean, 2 more third down sacks yesterday out of their 5 sacks. I mean, that pass rush is just incredible, and it's going to have to be this week too. I mean, if they can put pressure on him and force mistakes, and they can put him in a lot of third and longs, I think you can bring Brock Purdy down to earth.
All right, so let me see if I get this straight. Brock Purdy likes to throw over the middle. Kyle Shanahan continues calling plays for him to throw it across the middle. The 49ers have guys who can go across the middle and catch the football. Well, the one way you defend that is get your corners up and press those guys coming off the line of scrimmage. How often does Jonathan Gannon do that?
Not as much as critics would like, certainly.
Yeah.
Oh,
by the way, Tom, what did you think?
That kind of adds up the question marks for me coming into the game.
What did you think?
To make tackles,
What did you think of Nick after the game, going off on Angelo Cataldi and the flagship radio station that Jody also works for, about criticizing JG? And he just went. I was surprised. Is that his tact in this game, to go the disrespect route? Disrespect. So everybody's disrespected. I saw our buddy Hunter Brody talking about the line. What disrespect? 1.5, 2 point for the Eagles. Everybody's about disrespect, it seems, in the modern NFL. Micah Parsons disrespected Jalen Hurts. This, that. Is that what the Eagles are doing with this Gannon stuff? Sirianni going, and I know JG hates it, but that was weird that he brought it up sort of out of nowhere.
I think just like 2017, they're looking for things to,
that's what I thought.
Use the chip on the shoulder as to get them motivated. I mean, you don't have to get motivated for an NFC Championship game, but every little bit helps. And I think he's trying to fire up that defense to have them go to war for Gannon on Sunday.
Let's face it, Damo. Most Eagles fans, not all, but most would rather have DeMeco Ryans as the defensive coordinator because he was a popular player on a crappy defense for Philadelphia than the defensive coordinator that gave him the second best defense. Now, granted, San Francisco's number one, but I think the Eagles were 16 yards behind him. It's pretty close.
I mean, 70 sacks, for God's sakes.
Yeah.
The third most in history, or at least since they started counting sacks, and people want him fired. If you're going to pick something to rip, I don't think right now it should be Jonathan Gannon.
I'll tell you where the disrespect's going to come in. A guy who's going to play the disrespect card. That would be Kyle Shanahan. Because he's going to point out that after Brock Purdy scored 35 points in his first game and 33 points in the first game and 35 in the second, 21, 37, 37, 38. Guys like John McMullen and Paul Domowitch going, well, it's got to stop at some point. He's got to come back down to earth at some point. This miracle run can't run. Two Philadelphia media guys continuing to say that at some point the Cinderella's got to turn back into a pumpkin. That's some disrespect right there.
By the way, I agree with you. He will use that. That's what I mean. The whole league's about disrespect. Why don't you just say, hey, I'm the best team. I'm going to go kick somebody's ass. I kind of like that approach, which the Eagles took against the Giants. And they were they're significantly better than the Giants. This is more of an even matchup. But you're right, Jody.
Hold on, John. Who was on the record from the Eagles who said, we're going to kick the Giants' ass before the game?
Well, they don't say that kind of stuff publicly, but behind the scenes, they were pretty stinking confident they were going to kick the Giants' ass, and they should have been. But they're too smart to say that stuff on screen. But everybody plays this disrespect game, and he's doing it with Jonathan Gannon. And Jody, by the way, is doing it with the 49ers, and they'll do it with Kyle Shanahan. But I guarantee you, Jody, it's early in the week, but Jody's going to pick the Eagles. And you know why I know that? Because he picked the Eagles to go to the Super Bowl before the season. So with all this Brock Purdy love, Jody's going to pick the Eagles. I haven't decided. I'm wavering. I'm like, do I stick with my preseason pick? What do I do here? I don't know what I'm going to do, but I am concerned about Brock Purdy at Lincoln Financial Field. I don't think that's crazy. I'm concerned about veteran quarterbacks coming into Lincoln Financial Field in January. It's a very, very difficult place to play.
Yeah. I mean, the quarterback that I'm a little bit worried about is, Jalen staying healthy if you're an Eagles fan. He made it through Saturday's game, but he's not 100%. I mean, which made his performance on Saturday even more incredible. I mean, running with the ball, I think he only ended up taking 2 or 3 hits, maybe 2, and neither one of them was serious, but he exposed himself. He wasn't afraid to, threw the ball well, like I said, he's nowhere close to 100%.
The only player who might not be ready to go for the Eagles come Sunday is Avonte Maddox, who at least I thought this week was going to get back out onto the practice field, just judging by how the Eagles handled him from the time he got hurt, not putting him on IR, giving himself roster flexibility. They chose not to, which meant to me they were hoping to get him back this week. Didn't happen, didn't even practice. You want to take a poke and a hope as to whether Maddox is going to be good to go by this upcoming Sunday against the 49ers for the championship game, Damo?
Yeah, I mean, I have no clue where he stands physically right now. Thankfully for them, I mean, Gardner Johnson has been able to play up and back, kind of double, moonlight as the corner. as the slot guy. So I mean, they haven't missed Maddox as much as you would think, but getting him back certainly would help. It would be a big boost against this team.
Yeah. It is important because we talked about how much San Francisco throws the football over the middle of the field. So to have, Avonte Maddox and CJ Gardner-Johnson to be able to sort of help TJ Edwards and Kaiser White, that to me could really shift things in the Eagles' favor. So, and it is uncertainty, but just from the timing standpoint, the Eagles didn't place him on IR, so that means they thought he would come back at some point, and we only got 2 more potential games. So it is going to be interesting to see Wednesday and Thursday if Avonte can get back on the field. I think that would be a very big boost for the Eagles against this team, particularly. CJ Gardner-Johnson, though, as you mentioned, Damo, let's talk about him. He's playing sort of that hybrid role. When the Eagles have a nickel corner on the field, he's playing that. Then he'll go back to safety. Reed Blankenship, they're showing tremendous trust in that kid. That's a heck of a story. We talk about Brock Purdy. Obviously, quarterbacks are going to be always high profile. Undrafted kid from Middle Tennessee State. He's out there for every snap. How big of a surprise has Reed Blankenship been to you?
Wasn't on my radar, John. I don't know if he was on yours.
That's a safety factory, Middle Tennessee State. Kevin Byard went there, and then that's who Blankenship replaced at Middle Tennessee State. It's a safety factory down there, Damo.
Yeah. I love his attitude out there, his tackling ability, his instincts. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see, next year. They're obviously going to find a more prominent role for him in their defense, even when everybody's healthy, depending on who comes back. But yeah, and Gardner Johnson's just been getting him back. They probably aren't in the NFC Championship game if he hasn't been playing the last few weeks.
And oh, by the way, on Blankenship, he got picked on that first Giant possession. 2 of the passes they completed were against him. And then afterwards, he shut it down and didn't get beat once the entire game and made some huge tackles. So he got challenged early and then answered the challenge thereafter for the rest of the game, much like all his teammates who just beat the Giants down. I brought this up with John earlier. Let me run it by you, Damo.
Mm-hmm.
Any chance for overconfidence? Now, I'm talking about behind the scenes, and nobody's going to go on the record. John just rightfully said, they're not stupid enough to put bulletin board material out there for everybody else, but certainly they're going to feel confident about their chances. Any chance for overconfidence coming into this game?
I'd be really shocked, Jody. All they have to do is look at the film, and they know what they're facing.
Yeah, this team's good. I think to be honest, they were overconfident against the Giants, but I think they could be. You can't be overconfident against this team. Playmakers, but there's some areas where you can attack San Francisco. I don't think their defensive line is as good as it typically has been in the past few years when they've been on this little run. It's Nick Bosa. Armstead is back. Bosa's going to be Defensive Player of the Year. That's going to be interesting to me, Damo, if he can break Lane Johnson's sort of sack list streak. That to me is going to be an interesting matchup. The linebackers, they have the best linebackers in the NFL. Tandem, Warner and Greenlaw. Even the third kid is really good. But the corners, I think, the Eagles go in every week and pretty much, if you ask Nick, what do you think you have the advantage? They almost always say wide receiver because they're so good. AJ's so good. Mm-hmm. I think they do have a big advantage at wide receiver, even against San Francisco. You see it that way?
I mean, it's a place to exploit. San Francisco's stronger probably at safety than they are at corner. I don't know how they'll use those safeties with respect to AJ and helping out on AJ and Devontae. you know, it was interesting this past week. I mean, I don't know what went on with AJ. He was not happy at the end. You know, everybody on TV saw the discussion he was having with Nick, I think it was. You know, I don't know if it was over the fact that he felt he wasn't targeted enough. I don't know if it was the fact that he thought he was not on the field enough because of the fact that they went with more 12 and 13 personnel. I'm not sure, but he's got to be a bigger factor this week, certainly. I think he can have a good game against this, but it all comes down to him, getting some time. You said that line is not as good as it's been in the past, and you're probably right, but there's, Lane's got to stay, be able to be functional enough to stay in Bosa's face and not let him be a factor. So if he does that and Jalen has time, they certainly can do some damage in the passing game.
And that's what I think the Eagles have to do to win this game, because San Francisco's run defense is superior. They shut down the Cowboys yesterday. No, Pollard got hurt, which compromised Dallas's running game for sure.
Yeah.
But they were the number 2 team against the rush all year long. They can be had against the pass. This could very well be a Jalen Hurts game. John just said Sirianni always has confidence in his wide receivers. They can win that matchup. Well, that's the matchup they're going to have to win, because that's where I think San Francisco can be beat.
Yeah. Although, you're right about them against the rush, but they haven't faced too many quarterbacks who bring the element to the offense.
The Eagles are different, man. The Eagles are different when they have that +1 and that threat, and it's the threat more than anything else. I was looking at the numbers, Damo, and you probably know this, but they were at like 150-ish running with Jalen healthy, almost 5 yards a carry. Then you had the Gardner Minshew games in week 18, and they were down under 100 and under 4 yards a carry. That's the difference of Jalen Hurts. And all of a sudden he's back. The zone read mechanics are back in the offense, and you're 268. There is a big, big difference when he is on the field. Just the threats of him running the football and pulling it on the backside. I want to talk about these coaches, because Kyle Shanahan, and Jody knows, I say it often enough. To me, that's the best. You can argue with Andy, obviously, but to me, that's the best play schemer in the NFL. He makes mistakes in game management, though, because he's bogged down in play calling. He makes a lot of mistakes. I think the best thing Nick did was to sort of take a step back and become more of a CEO coach. When it comes to game management, you think the Eagles have the advantage over the 49ers?
Yeah, I always think when you've got a head coach that's a CEO as opposed to calling offense or defense, you're in a better situation in the overall scheme of things than no matter how smart the guy is. And Kyle Shanahan's as smart as anybody. So yeah, I do. X's and O's wise, Kyle's going to try. They what's different about their offense is they, in a passing league, they use the run to set up the pass. So they have to succeed with the run or it all falls apart. So we're going to find out early whether, and that's not an easy run game to stop. Christian McCaffrey is going to present challenges on Sundays. Most of their guys are. So, and the Eagles have had games where they have not done a very good job against the run. So, when I look at what Kyle's going to try and do on Sunday and what they need to stop, it starts with that, stopping their run game, or at least slowing it down. And like I said earlier, putting a rookie quarterback in 3rd and long situations.
All right, so I'm going to put you to the test here, Damo, on how the Eagle offense is going to play on Sunday. For the year, regular season, the Eagles averaged 240 per game on the ground, through the air, 140 per game on the ground. If I tell you they're going over on one of those two, either run it for more than 140 or pass it for more than 240, which one do you think is more likely to happen?
Well, like Jody was saying earlier about their defense against the run, I think this could be a 300-yard type passing game for Jalen.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think they're going to throw the ball. Eagles fans are not going to be happy with that, but they're going to come out throwing the football against San Francisco. But we shall see. At PDamo, 3013.com, JAKIBsports.com, WBCB.com, Merrill Station does a tremendous job. I'll leave you with this, Damo. Who's going to win the football game? Who's going to go to the Super Bowl? Who's going to represent the NFC? You know, the Eagles have had a nice little run here. You know, if you think about Super Bowl 52, it was Matt Ryan and Case Keenum. This time it's Daniel Jones and Brock Purdy. Yeah, you can't ask for a better situation from a quarterback standpoint. They're just going to waltz into the Super Bowl.
Yeah. I'm going to go with a 53-yard walk-off field goal by Jake Elliott.
Whoa. I like it. Jake Elliott. Yeah.
Talk about bringing down the house at the link. What will that sound like if that's the way that it plays?
Might implode. Woo. Yeah.
Damo, great stuff. Always a pleasure, buddy. We plan on getting you back on next week because if the Eagles win, we got a 2-week lead up to the Super Bowl. You know you're going to be on at least one of those shows with us. Thanks for doing it here this morning.
You bet, guys. Take care.
Thanks, Paul Domwich, 33rd team, JAKIBsports.com. Only been covering Eagles for decades. Knows both the history and
that he just said 53 walk-off, right? Yep. Walk-off field goal to win it. Could you imagine that place if they walk off?
That's why I said Lincoln Financial Field. I hope the support in the building is there because it's going to get loud. It's going to get crazy if that's what it is. And yeah, I'm glad that John McMullen made my pick for me. In case you're just tuning in,
yes,
John has already informed the loyal listeners of Birds 365
because I know
what my pick is going to be. He doesn't know who's going to win the game yet, but he's already decided for me who's going to win the game. I will tell him, sorry, John, you're wrong.
I hope
I have not decided yet who's going to win because I think it's that close. I think it's a stone cold toss up between these two teams. Not only are they the two best teams in the NFC, they're this close. The 49ers have only won 12 straight games. And I wasn't kidding when I said earlier, I thought John McMullen and Paul Domwich were disrespecting Brock Purdy a little bit. The kid's undefeated. He hasn't lost a football game yet. But
true.
The Eagles are going to have to deal with them on
I'll
Sunday.
say this. Yes, I stand by my Jody Mack prediction. We'll see if I'm right. The question is, will I stand by my 49ers prediction? I don't know. You're going to have to tune in the rest of the.
You're going to have to do a 180 on Brock Purdy. If you've got stones enough to pick the 49ers.
Yeah, that's why I'm wavering.
You're going to have to come around on Brock Purdy.
That's why I'm wavering. Here's where I'm torn. My whole philosophy with picking the 49ers was that I thought Trey Lance was going to be a little bit better than Jimmy Garoppolo. Not great, but a little bit better. And I thought that would be enough to put San Francisco over the hump and back in the Super Bowl. That was my thought. Didn't turn out that way, obviously, but Brock Purdy has been better than Jimmy Garoppolo. So I have this, raging debates in my inner core. I don't believe in this kid. And part of it is, to be honest, pedigree. But I have seen enough of the 49ers play to see, you shouldn't throw that. Oh, you shouldn't throw that. Oh, you shouldn't throw that. And it's all working. So it's a difficult decision because I'm going to make Eagles fans mad for the first of many times this week, no doubt. The best team in football from a talent perspective is the San Francisco 49ers. The best team in football. But the Eagles have the significantly better quarterback. And they're also stinking talented. They might be number 2 to San Francisco. So it's a very close game, as you mentioned, Joe.
And a quick response to one of our streamers, our guy, Dominique, the Jaquan Jarrett.
Jaquaski Tart
fan. He said, and Jody Mack was scared of the Giants. I absolutely was not. The hell are you talking about? The only reservation I had coming into the Giant game this week was Jalen Hurts' shoulder, Lane Johnson's ad. That's it. That's the only thing that I had concern of. And yeah, I didn't know if Lane was going to be able to play 3 plays and then be back on the sidelines. If the offensive play calling was going to be continue and protect Jalen Hurts' shoulder mode. That was the only thing I feared. I feared the Eagles, not the Giants. And this week, I will tell you right now, because it's going to sound like I feared the 49ers. I don't, from an Eagle perspective. I don't fear the 49ers. Here's what I do. I respect the 49ers. I think when you win 12 games in a row, you've earned
They haven't lost in 3 months. They're
undefeated for November, December, and January, okay? To me, that merits respect. People like to pick and choose the words they use. That's what we do every day here on Bird 365. We pick and choose our own words. Let me get mine on record. I respect the San Francisco 49ers. I don't fear the 49ers. The Eagles shouldn't fear anybody. The Kansas City Chiefs, the Cincinnati Bengals, they shouldn't fear anybody. They played as good football as anybody all year long. But I have to give respect to a team that's won 12 games in a row. If you're not, then shame on you. I've asked this question twice now about overconfidence. The Eagles, I think, do need to be a little wary of that because they had such an easy time with the Giants. They beat out the Giants as easily as they did.
Yeah. I don't think that game helped them. Yeah, I don't think that game helped them. I think it's irrelevant. I think it was such a mismatch. Like people, I think I give the Eagles all the credit in the world. You don't play around it again. Like in week 18, they played around in that type of situation, and they were way too close at the end of the game, box score wise, with the New York Giants. They just came in the playoffs and just dismantled them. So I give them credit, but I don't think you learned that much because they were so much significantly better than the Giants. I don't think you've learned that much about the team. From that standpoint, I've already thrown that game out of my mind. I'm like, it's so irrelevant to me because they're so much better than the Giants. And I go back to Pat Leonard, our buddy, and I was talking to Pat in the press box, and he mentioned again last week when he was on the show, the game that mattered, December 11th, and he was the one who told us, they were shook. The Giants were shook in the locker room because they were like, oh my God, this team is so much better than we are. And that always stuck with me. And the Eagles sort of had that same approach behind the scenes. Like we're much better than this team. And they proved it. And that's why I kind of put it aside already.
And hopefully the Eagles do just that, keep it in its proper perspective. They dominated a team they were supposed to dominate. They took care of business. They did what they were supposed to. They were healthy this side of Vontae Maddox. Their 2 key guys, Lane Johnson and Jalen Hurts, were perfectly fine, and they put the beat down on the Giants they were supposed to. All right, Johnny Mac coming back. Chris Franklin's going to join us in about 15 minutes. When we come back, I'm going to take a stone cold shot at a media outlet. Embarrassing media outlet. It just cannot even be explained to football fans. We will get a timeout in here, then I'll come back and just lambaste a media outlet. Oh my God, you should borderline think about turning in your media pass for the stupidness that they're keeping up these days. All right, John McMullen, Jody McDonald coming right back here on Birds 365.
My name is Fran Soleno, and I'm a managing director here at Del Valle Insurance Group. Been in the business for over 36 years, saving people money on their insurance needs. Give us a call. Let us help you custom design an insurance plan that meets both your needs and budget.
Since 1977, it's always been about you, the community, at Rafferty Subaru. And through the Subaru Love Promise, we prove we care by supporting charities like So Good Now.
So Good Now helps kids in under-resourced areas by connecting them with student athletes to serve as mentors. We remove barriers so athletes can help youth in the corners of our communities where light and love are needed most.
When you choose Rafferty Subaru, you help organizations like So Good Now.
It's all about you at Rafferty Subaru.
Go for the beers, go for the cheers, go for the hit and the hits. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean.
We all know that taxes are just part of life. It's true during our working years, but also in retirement. But what you might not know is up to 85% of your Social Security benefits might be taxed. Our team at Thrive Financial has helped retire thousands of people across the Delaware Valley by asking questions they never knew they needed to ask, including how their Social Security benefits might be taxed. It's time to be proactive on taxes. Get your Thrive Retirement Tax Playbook today.
Game Show with Seth Joyner.
I knew that they had a running game.
Derek Gunn.
He has put in the effort.
Devin Caney.
Had we not won the Super Bowl, what would we be saying?
And Mike Missinelli.
Well, you know who Philly is.
Post game, now streaming on the 6ABC family of apps.
Mac guys here on Birds 365 Championship Week Monday. Eagles and 49ers come Sunday at the Lincoln Financial Field to see who goes to the Super Bowl for the NFC. All right, Johnny Mac, I teased before we went to break me pointing out the ludicrousy of one media's outlet, NFL standings. And you and I have talked about it here on the show previously, and it needs to not only be reworked into the conversation, it needs to be beaten to a pulp. ESPN's Power Index.
Do they still have Dallas and Buffalo ahead of the Eagles?
No, neither of those two. The Kansas City Chiefs have been number one. They stayed number one. The Philadelphia Eagles have rightfully moved to number two ahead of the Dallas Cowboys at this time. The numbers are in case you want them. Chiefs are number one at 12.9. Eagles are number two at 12. The Bengals have moved up to number three at 11.2. In fourth is the Dallas Cowboys at 10.2. Fifth is the Buffalo Bills, who fell from second down to fifth when they got their rear ends handed to them at home by the Cincinnati Bengals. At least they got that much right. Sixth at a 7.9 is the San Francisco 49ers. Now, I may have misinterpreted this, John. Sometimes my vision isn't great. Did I not see the San Francisco 49ers beat the Dallas Cowboys yesterday? Did that not happen on my television?
No.
Or did I just misread the score at the end? Was it actually Dallas who scored more points? And are we talking out our ass here about a 49er-Eagle matchup because it's actually Eagles-Cowboys?
Yeah, I don't. I can honestly say I have never looked at ESPN's Power Football Index, whatever it is.
Power Ranking Index.
Power Ranking. To this day, I've never looked at it. I hear it from other people. I will probably never look at it. I don't know.
They're ESPN. They're supposed to be the leader in sports.
Nah.
How do you put this out there as information after the one team beats the other team. It just happened 18 hours ago. It isn't like, oh, well, it was 3 months ago. We kind of forgot. It was 18 friggin' hours ago.
I'm open to analytics more than most people my age. And I do think there's, in a sport where it's, one game versus one game, it's not a series. There are many upsets, and sometimes the best team doesn't win. I'm open to all that being reality and truth. But for this, because Eagles fans have been so upset about this all year, basically, I've heard about it so much. At that point, I'm like, I try to talk them off the ledge. I'm like, who cares? It doesn't matter. Number one, you're in the championship game. The 49ers are in the championship game. Much of that, if you ask me, what does it have to do with? We talk about disrespect. It has to do with Brock Purdy, I assume. Just like me and Damo are disrespecting Brock Purdy.
You're in line with the ESPN Power Index.
Well, I don't believe in the quarterback, but I believe in the team. I'm also one of those people that don't pick winners on the quarterback. And there's many times I talked about the Eagles and their two sort of recent runs to the Super Bowl. Look at the quarterbacks they faced. I just mentioned it to Damo. It's easier. I always talk about margin of error. Like when you have Patrick Mahomes at 100%, which he's not going to be moving forward. When you have Patrick Mahomes at 100%, you have a larger margin of error than everybody else. That to me is what great quarterback play is about. Not that, Patrick Mahomes is going to beat Joe Burrow, or Joe Burrow is going to beat Josh Allen, or Jalen Hurts is going to beat Brock Purdy. If it were quarterback versus quarterback for the Eagles, we could wrap it up right now. We don't have to do shows. We can take the week off because the Eagles are winning. I don't know if they are. San Francisco's got a lot of other good players that are going to have something to say about it. But if it's just quarterback versus quarterback, it would be easy. It's not, but I imagine, and I don't even know because I don't know how ESPN does this nonsense, but I imagine it has to do with the quarterback.
Here's what I know. It's an embarrassment, ESPN. You should be embarrassed. If you're going to continue to call yourself the leader in sports, you got to take this down. You can't continue to put it up there and upgrade it after games are over and done with, because the games are basically irrelevant. Because the 49ers beat the Cowboys yesterday, yet you have the Cowboys still ranked ahead of the 49ers. How can that possibly be? In what sports world does that make any sense?
Well, where it doesn't make sense is the 49ers have a better team than the Cowboys. That's where it doesn't make sense.
Not according to the ESPN Power Index.
Well, and that's why I said, because there are many upsets in the NFL. And as I just said, just like the tournament in college basketball, when you have upsets, when you have a one and done format, often the better team loses. My issue with this is San Francisco is clearly the better team. It's not about, the better team got upset. You can make an argument that Buffalo's better than Cincinnati. Now, Cincinnati whooped their asses on one Sunday in January. But you can make an argument that Buffalo is better. They've had a lot of injuries. I talked about Von Miller, the safeties. They've done a lot of things wrong. But you can make that argument, and I'm not going to kill you for it, even though Cincinnati just soundly beat them. This is not even close. That in any aspect, you can't look at those two teams and say, oh, that's, And by the way, I'm a person who thinks, Dallas would keep that game close, and they did, and ultimately lose it, and that's how it shook out. Dallas is a talented team. They've been very inconsistent. I think the quarterback's had a bad year. I think he played really poorly in that particular game. I don't see how you do that. But at the end of the day, opinions are like, what, Jody? You got them. I got them. Everybody's got them. If you don't like it, turn to the next one because everybody else does it too.
Right. Here's my opinion. I'm not sure whether it's obnoxiousness or stupidity. that they put these rankings up there. It's one of the two. I just haven't decided which one it is. We're so much smarter than you that even though evidence right in front of our face tells us we're wrong, we're sticking to our analytical guns. And we're
that might depend analytics. In fact, that's what so many people have problem accepting analytics, because so many people that subscribe and worship at the altar of analytics act like that, saying, no, this is the way, this is the way, this is the way. And they don't, look at other avenues. And that's one of the reasons you get in trouble. But from an analytics, see, that's my problem. From an analytics standpoint, it doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense. I thought, for a brief moment, and Pro Football Focus put the 49ers on top of the Eagles as the number one team. And I thought, Eagles fans would lose their mind over that, but nobody made a big deal out of it. It's all the same. Who cares? They're going to play each other. That's the beauty of it. Right. So you're going to get to see what happens.
Here's the funny thing. The Cowboys and the 49ers played each other, John, and the 49ers lost. 49ers won. And yet ESPN's analytics says the Cowboys are still a more highly ranked team. It's embarrassing, ESPN. I got a lot of friends at ESPN. I started my career in this business working in Bristol, Connecticut. Went back, did ESPN radio as well, did ESPN local radio as well. So I got a lot of ESPN ties. I got a lot of friends that work there, still work there. Embarrassing, ESPN.
Yeah, but here's the thing.
Stone cold embarrassing.
But here's where I'm going to differ from you, Jody. You know how many people work at ESPN. Like 99.9 of those people that work at ESPN have nothing to do with the ESPN Power Football Index. And certainly
if they put it on their website, I'm going to hold them responsible.
Well, here's why. Because I constantly hear here on JAKIB Sports, one of our hosts will say something they don't like, and they'll say, "Oh, JAKIB Sports, everybody," and they lump us all together. That's not how it works. You see me and Jody argue all the time on our particular show. We don't agree. Why do you think we agree with everybody else? I can't stand as a media person when somebody says, "Oh, you're under that umbrella," and somebody else says something and they attach me to that. No, that's their opinion. That's their opinion. If I worked at ESPN, I would say, hey, I would still tell you the Football Power Index is full of you know what. So the only part we differ, Jody, I'm not going to put everybody in ESPN under the ESPN Football Power Index umbrella.
Well, I'm not. I'm doing an ESPN statement, not any individual who works for ESPN. This is an all-encompassing ESPN station as just an entity. It's embarrassing. I'm not saying Kevin Nagandi should be embarrassed. Kevin Nagandi's got his own opinions. He should be held accountable. Scott Van Pelt. Pick whichever individual you want. They have their own. They present their own. ESPN as a company is embarrassing itself by continuing to put this out. That's the only thing I'm saying. All right, John McMullen, Jody McDonald, Mac. Coming back, we got CF, Chris Franklin, our bud who does Mondays with us, has all week long done a great job. I expect him to do the same here with us. He's next here on Birds 365.
My name is Fran Soleno, and I'm a managing director here at Del Valle Insurance Group. Been in the business for over 36 years, saving people money on their insurance needs. Give us a call. Let us help you custom design an insurance plan that meets both your needs and budget.
Since 1977, it's always been about you, the community, at Rafferty Subaru. And through the Subaru Love Promise, we prove we care by supporting charities like So Good Now.
So Good Now helps kids in under-resourced areas by connecting them with student athletes to serve as mentors. We remove barriers so athletes can help youth in the corners of our communities where light and love are needed most.
When you choose Rafferty Subaru, you help organizations like So Good Now.
It's all about you at Rafferty Subaru.
Go for the beers, go for the cheers, go for the hit and the hits. Go for the scene, go for the screens, go for the gallery, go for the win, go to Ocean.
We all know that taxes are just part of life. It's true during our working years, but also in retirement. But what you might not know is up to 85% of your Social Security benefits might be taxed. Our team at Thrive Financial has helped retire thousands of people across the Delaware Valley by asking questions they never knew they needed to ask, including how their Social Security benefits might be taxed. It's time to be proactive on taxes. Get your Thrive Retirement Tax Playbook today.
Post-game show with Seth Joyner.
I knew that they had a running game.
Derek Gunn.
He has put in the effort.
Devin Caney.
Had we not won the Super Bowl, what would we be saying?
And Mike Missinelli.
Well, you know who Philly is.
Post-game, now streaming on the 6ABC family of apps.
Championship Week Monday with your Mac and Mac guys here on Birds 365. McDonald McMullen joined by, there he is, Chris Franklin, looking good and ready to rock on Championship Week. Franklin, what was the highlight of Saturday's beatdown of the New York Giants for you?
I don't know. It could have been the fireworks that were going off pregame from one of the parking lots. It could have been, I don't know, the double bird that Eli Manning got during
that was probably the funnest part. Eli was a good sport too.
And how about Peyton's kid threw on an Eagles jersey just to pimp his uncle? How good was that?
I'm liking the little dynamic that's developing between them two. I know we're going to have like this third generation of Mannings. Might as well start seeing some of the characters now and see what they bring. So I like that kid already. It's cool.
We're going to see what's his name, Cooper's son this year coming up in Texas. He's supposed to be the real deal.
Yeah, Arch.
Arch.
Yeah, Arch, man.
I think he should be all right.
I think he's already making more money at Texas than he's going to make as a rookie in the NFL. But
he's going to be a super senior all of a sudden. I could use another year of eligibility. My knee's achy right now, guys.
Yeah. I'm not ready to go to the NFL and take a pay cut. Yeah. Some point, sometime, somebody's going to say that. I guarantee you.
Yeah.
Well, isn't there a guy who's like 8 years in now? I think he's like a 10
the guy who just transferred to Notre Dame. He's been playing since the 1940s.
When I ran the straight T, it was all right there.
Spencer Rattler's going back, right?
Yeah, Spencer Rattler's going back.
He was supposed to come out 4 years ago, but somehow he still got college eligibility.
Yeah, he was supposed to be the number one pick 7 years ago. Number one overall pick. Yeah.
He might be. South Carolina's. I might be a little biased because I know one of my friends is his son plays there, but they've been going up. I wouldn't be surprised if he's like in the top 10 next year. They have a good team.
We've been saying that for 3 years. It's going to happen.
With the third pick in the draft, the 49ers take 27-year-old Spencer Rattler. I don't think he's going to be in the top 10.
It is going to happen. But let's talk about the divisional round. First, we'll start at home. Surprised how, I guess you have to be surprised a little bit about how dominant the Eagles were. I thought they were going to win the game pretty easily, but that's as complete a game as you can play in the NFL. Is there any nitpicking you can do about that game?
I guess the only nitpicking you can really do is like wishing they would score a little bit more toward the second half. Like they started doldrums, but we've seen this all year with the team. We expect it when they get up big, they just run the clock. They run. It's like an extended 4-minute drive they have, and it starts when they come out to the locker room at halftime. That's the only thing I could really go at them for it. But looking at the way they came out, they didn't show any signs of rust. They came out, they looked real effective on offense. You saw like the first 15 plays, it established like the identity of that game. It kind of helped that Brian Dable gave him that fourth down. But overall, I mean, it's tough to find something. I think they played one of their best games of the season, a really complete game.
Oh, I'll give you a nitpick if you want one, and feel free to say, "Shut up, Jody." Jake Elliott isn't getting the ball into the end zone, and the Giants ran it out past the 30 a couple of times. Now, that's not a terrible thing because it keeps coming after scores. The Eagles kept getting touchdown after touchdown after touchdown, so they kicked off a lot, and Jake didn't quite get touchbacks. But the Giants did take it out over the 30 a handful of times during that game. Could that be an issue, Chris Franklin?
No. I don't think it's so much.
I didn't think so. That's why I said nitpick. Yeah,
the only thing I thought was interesting when you look at the Kyron Johnson aspect of it, he was out. He was one of the main guys that's been out there for special teams. They've used else a little bit more. I thought maybe they were going to use Anthony Harris in that role a little bit, but like they were just trying to give him a game check. But hey, you're elevated. Yeah, you're elevated. Congrats. Yeah, you're out. Thanks.
Hey, I like that. A lot of but the Giants have been doing that as well. They elevate guys to get them a game check and say they've been doing, hard work on the practice squad. I like that. The Eagles did that for Anthony Harris. But I got to tell you, man, they like Reed Blankenship. I think Reed has obviously played better than we all expected, but this would be a nice week to get Avonte Maddox back. It really would. I mean, all San Francisco does is throw the football over the middle of the field. And they have guys like Ayuk and Samuel and Christian McCaffrey and Kittle that can break tackles and get yards after catch. Boy, it'd be nice to have Avonte Maddox and Chauncey Gardner-Johnson in the middle of the field for this particular team.
Yeah, it is. You took the words out of my mouth. I'm thinking like, you know what? The way that the Giants were trying to do that early on, trying to attack wherever he was, and then he's got up to his cause. But when you look at that receiving core, it's not as good as the 49ers, obviously. I look at the intermediate games being how the Eagles defense wins or loses that game. There's going to be a lot of crossing routes that goes around there. They're going to try to use confusion. They're going to try to you see Kittle going across the middle there. And it would help to have Avonte Maddox because not only can he get you a good jam or within that first 5 yards, cover them very well. I like the fact of having Chauncey Gardner-Johnson being able to roll up in case you get Kittle trying to go in the middle of the field, or Ayuk, one of those guys, even Debo Samuel, one of those guys go in the middle, having him matched up against that. So I think it's going to be key. He looked a little bit like he seemed like, and this is really looking small, but when he was jogging off the field at the end of the game, just saying how you doing, like when they were saying hi, he was jogging off the field, he looked all right. And that's way too deep in the weeds in it. But if he's able to go, that's a huge boost in their chances to win that game on Sunday.
All right. Trying to project a little bit, head to Sunday. Eagles offense against the 49ers defense. They were number 2 in the NFL this year in yards per game. They're just a very difficult team to run on. You saw it yesterday with the Cowboys. And I know Pollard going out handicapped them, so you do have to factor that in. But the Cowboys didn't run it worth a damn yesterday. And most teams this year against the 49ers have not been able to do that. But they can be had in the pass. Jalen Hurts up for a 300-yard game against San Francisco this week?
So many times we talk about the team run. They need to establish a run. I think it's the time. This is the week you let it air out. I think the Eagles have the weapons that are necessary to attack that deep 7. Listen, Charvarius Ward, he does a decent job. For what he is, and on the cornerback on the edge right there. But when you look at the receiving core that these Eagles have on the outside, I think that can be that can really tip the scales of balance on offensively when they do that. And to do that, do they say that, hey, throw 45 times against the team? No, because you don't want to expose Hurts to being hit over and over again because you figure he's going to get a couple runs or scrambles with it there as well too. So I think this is the game you let it go and watch out for Dallas Goedert. You're pretty sure that everybody, all the talk's going to be about Kittle. Goddard's going to want to say, you know what, I'm among the best tight ends as well too. So I wouldn't be surprised if he gets in the mix and has an impact in this game.
Did you make anything about AJ Brown's reaction after the game that so many are making a big deal of? I haven't seen that from AJ all season. I mean, we did see it with Stephon Diggs in Buffalo. You almost expect it out of receivers that when they don't get the football, they start to get a little bit antsy. I haven't seen that with AJ. Do you think people are making too much out of it? The Eagles ran for 268 yards. That's what Shane Steichen does. If you're not going to stop it, you know what Shane says, Chris. I can't say it on. Actually, I can. A lot of F-bombs. I'm going to keep up and do it. I'm going to keep up and doing it. They ran for 268 yards. They're going to keep doing it.
I think it's something, but I don't think it's that much. I mean, it's a big stage. It's the playoff game. It's divisional round. Everybody's watching. You're the only game at the time, so he's going to want the ball. He's going to want to show everybody, he's one of the top 2-3 wide receivers in this league. And when I look at that, I was like, I think it kind of made me wonder, like when they tried that, they tried to get him the ball deep, but I thought he was a little more hurt than anything, frustrated because he's hurt. Because like he got up slowly when he got off that first tackle, he got up slowly. Then they tried that deep route in the end zone that he missed, and he got up slowly again and frustrated. I'm looking at that, I'm thinking like, all right, I don't know if it's that, but I wouldn't look too much into it. Now, if halfway through the game it's 10-10 and this team is in a dogfight and it's the same type of production, then I'm starting to get a little worried about it a little bit too. And you go and maybe have Jalen go over there, Nick say something to him, but I'm not too overly concerned of it as of right now.
Wide receivers acting like divas? Shocking. That never happens in the NFL. Here's why I think it's okay. AJ Brown's a smart guy, and he's got football savvy, and he had to understand that. Let's see, the Eagles are up 7-0, 14-0, 21-0. Is the clock an element of the game? Oh yeah, you want to run the clock? You're up by 3 friggin' touchdowns. Of course, that's what Shane Steichen's going to do. Much like I described the Jags and the Giants. After you get over the pain of the loss, you take a step back and you go, we had a pretty damn good year. After he gets over the fact that he didn't get the ball thrown to him enough as much as he may have wanted, he's going to take a step back and go, damn, we got the 49ers coming in and they're better against the run than they are against the pass. I guess I better get ready to have a big game on Sunday. AJ Brown will be fine, and he'll probably have a big game against the 49ers this week. All right, the accomplishment of the entire coaching staff. Credit to Steichen, credit to Gannon. The defense was great. And Nick Sirianni, the guy who runs the whole shoot match. How important a win was this for him? 2 years in, having a tremendous run as the head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles, 1-loss record, everything else. But the playoffs are a different animal. And now he's gotten his first playoff win, and it's a blowout win against the Giants. How big is that for Sirianni?
Well, I think it was huge the fact they actually just won the playoff game, because coming off the effort they had last year against the Buccaneers, this team needed to show some type of improvement. Because if you were one and done, especially with this team and this roster the way it's currently constructed, it would have been
to
bad.
This team. Oh, there would have been some angst. I told Jody last week I would kill this team if they lost to the New York Giants. Now, there's levels. Now we're in the NFC Championship game. The Eagles are facing a very good opponent, but this was a nice matchup for the Eagles, the New York Giants. I can't even imagine a loss, but if there was a loss, it would have erased everything, wouldn't it? The entire season.
It would have just been, remember that time when it was just been, remember when like you got, and then I think he's coming in, entering the season next year. They lost a game on a hot seat automatically because you basically schemed your way against that Giants team that we saw. If you lost to that, the way that would have been bad. But I think for them, I think it would have been. I also think maybe one of the coordinators they would have happily let go one of the coordinators if that happened as well too. But I look at the way I think that was important just for a mindset. It settles them in now. It gets them used. They got used to the playoff experience a little bit more, and I think overall. Yeah, that was huge for them, and it was just huge.
Instead of after the game, I thought it was kind of weird that Nick went out of his way to defend Jonathan Gannon. He was talking about other coaches. Other coaches ask him, Jonathan Gannon gets shit in Philadelphia? And he's like, yeah, all the time. And evidently he's on his spots, his contractually obligated spot. Should come on Birds 365, Nick, but we'll talk about that in the offseason. And he had all these statistics thrown out to defend Jonathan Gannon. Why do you think he's doing that?
Well, the funny thing would be he wore that Dream Chasers chain, and now he thinks he's part of a crew, and he's hip sticking up for one of his boys. But that would be my thing. But overall, when you look at the way he does it, I think he got tired. And that whole thing of they don't listen. I think he's been listening all the time. Coaches swear that, oh no, we don't listen to what the media is saying.
Yeah,
and I think he was just waiting for y'all take this and stick it somewhere. But yeah, it's. He does it. He always talks about connecting and everything else, and I think that's one of his ways of doing that. That somebody messes with one of his guys, he's gonna stick up for them. So I think he's been waiting to do that for a while, and the fact that they had that performance in a playoff game, and especially after what he was hearing after the Saints game, letting them get a drive and everything, I think he's been waiting for a while now just to to have that coming back there.
All right. Again, need some crystal ball stuff for this upcoming game against the Niners, which I think the better option is passing than running. But off the game that they had, you're not just going to chuck the running game. Miles, 17 for 90. Kenneth Gainwell, 12 for $112, including the late touchdown run, which, by the way, great blocking downfield by the wide receivers. Believe it or not, Quez and also Nick's favorite former Indianapolis Colt, both did a great job blocking downfield. Will Kenneth Gainwell be as big a part of the game plan this week as he was this past week against the Giants?
I think he will be, just because of the fact that they throw the ball more, he's going to be on the field more. And I think if you look at there's some options, there's some chances they'll have, especially in the flat area. Like I've done some early watching, not just yesterday, but early watching. That flat area could be a big area that Gainwell can attack, and I like his chances. Especially, he looks a lot more confident now. That's one thing I noticed from him as well. He looks a lot more confident. When he gets the ball in his hands, he runs with a lot of purpose. So if they decide to do, and I'm not saying like, hey, throw some screens, but hey, just run some clear out routes, run AJ Brown down the field, run Zach Pascal down the field, and just get him singled up one-on-one in that zone and have the linebacker to go out against them. I think they like that. They like that matchup very well. So yeah, I think he can play a big role in that aspect. The run game I would be shocked if the team ran like 25 times per period, and then he gets like maybe 30% of the carries.
I mean, that was, effectiveness wise, I mean, probably not. He's not going to go for 112, but he's always a big part of the game plan because he's the third down back and the hurry up back. So Kenny's always going to be a big part of it. But the one thing that the 49ers have the best tandem of linebackers in the NFL. I mean, Fred Warner and Trey Greenlaw, even the third one, Al Shire, is tremendous. And then you talk about Nick Bosa and D'Amico Ryans. Eagles fans very familiar with him. This is the only defense that was technically better than the Eagles defense. Lane Johnson, amazing performance, torn groin muscle, had 27 pass pro attempts according to Pro Football Focus. Nothing. Zip. Pitched a shutout against the Giants. But you could see he was struggling a little bit. And this time he's got Nick Bosa, who is the best pass rusher in the NFL, who is going to be the NFL Defensive Player of the Year. Yeah, you worried a little bit that Lane's not healthy?
I think so. I think earlier on, especially, I got worried when he first got down, like in that first drive, and he was holding that area that he injured. I was like, oh. But then he seemed to find out it got to a thing. I don't know if it's one of the things where we work it so much that it gets numb and you're like, okay, it settles in and you're good to go. I think you still leave him out on an island, especially early on in the game, just to test him out. And then if it doesn't, then you start to see him chip a little bit more with those running backs. They still may chip him no matter what, just to get into Bosa's head and try to throw him off a little bit. But I'm not so much worried as of yet. I think the first 10 plays, the first 10 pass rushes is going to be a good tell to see like if he can be able to handle it. If not, the fact that this team has not had to shift over to worry about their tackles all season. Now you have to switch.
Do they know how to help their tackles? That's why they never help their tackles. Do they know how to help their tackles?
Yeah. I'm looking there. I'm like, if that doesn't happen, it's gonna be a long day, especially coming from that front side. Because we all know quarterbacks when they see the pressure, cool. As much as cool, calm, collected, Jalen's been throughout the three. Every quarterback sees pressure going like, you know what? Yeah, I think I might set up a little bit and force them to run. So that's one of the good matchups. I'm worried more about the 49ers trying to bring pressure around Landon Dickerson's side and bring an inside pressure, test him out because he's been pretty banged up, and we saw him leave out early on. So I don't know if they could try a couple more inside blitzes or those elaborate stunts to try to get some pressure inside that way.
Matchups are going to be a key in this game on Sunday. I think we all agree on that, and we'll be breaking them down for the next 4 days. Let me put this one to you. Who's the better tackling team?
To me, it's still the 49ers. I still see some times where the Eagles have issues where they meet them in the hole. Even when it takes 3 or 4 times. We saw so many times when Saquon Barkley was running up the middle, you need like 2 or 3 guys, 3, 4 guys to try to slow up the progress. And listen, we all know Saquon Barkley is one of the better running backs in the league and stuff like that for it. But wait till you get to Christian McCaffrey as well, too. And that's what leads to a little worry about that 49ers offense as well, too, because these guys are getting over the field. You miss one tackle, next thing you know, you're seeing a bunch of Eagles chasing the guy down the field 60 yards. And so I still think the 49ers are a better tackling team, in my opinion, but the Eagles better use that orange donut a lot this week and try to get some last-minute preparation because it's going to be tough.
It is interesting because early in the season, I was talking about if you use PFF, I mean, the Eagles were like at the bottom of the NFL. Started week 1, Detroit. They had a terrible tackling performance. And they were like bottom 5 and then all of a sudden, second half of the season, they tightened up. And I think they ended up 14th. So in the top half of the tackling teams, but number 1.
Where are the 49ers?
Oh, number 1.
Yeah.
49ers are number 1. They are the best tackling team in the NFL. Yeah, that's a concern because for two reasons. One, San Francisco is very sure they're going to tackle people. But 2, what San Francisco has on offense, it's all yak guys. It's all, Debo and Ayuk and Kittle and McCaffrey and even Mitchell. These are all guys who make a lot of hay after they get the football. To me, that probably decides the winner of this game. I know San Francisco is going to tackle well. If the Eagles tackle well, they have a good chance to win this game. If they don't, they're going to get beat. That to me is everything in this game.
And they've taken the old West Coast offense approach, and who would have thought? Yeah, that's why. Like when you look at the way they try to put Purdy in a position to move that ball, it's all basically 5 to 10 yards.
Yeah,
and they try to do slants with that. That's it.
Yeah.
And it's to make it high percentage throws, and you disrupt that, you stop it. Good luck. They get frustrated.
I'm going to make an early prop bet for you, Chris. You can run with this. I'm going to guarantee a C.J. Gardner-Johnson interception.
Ooh.
Middle of the field, Brock Purdy not afraid to go there.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. There ain't a better playmaker. He's licking his chops. Throw it over the middle.
I could see that. I can really see that. I could also see Slay getting off the schneid too. It's going to be one interception this game because they don't turn the ball out. I can see there is going to be one interception this game that Purdy throws.
All right. Know that Jonathan Gannon is going to do his best to not tip his hand. And I actually think Gannon's pretty good at this, at feigning different type things. Unfortunately, he did that on 3rd and 30 against the Cowboys, too. That's the one time it didn't work at all. But who's going to end up covering George Kittle most? And I know it's going to be a lot of zone, but then you have to figure out the zone responsibility when the ball leaves Purdy's hand and it's going toward Kittle. Who's going to be in coverage on Kittle the most this week?
I'm going to go off the board and say Avonte Maddox. And that's without That's
Okay.
without any injury, any speculation. I think he's just going to be back, and with Kittle in the slot in that one too. So that's why it's going to be important for him to get position on him, because he's giving up the size for sure, but he makes up for that by making sure he's in the right position to go make a break past the PBU. So I'm gonna go say it's him, and then he's going to have CJ Gardner-Johnson up top to support him.
I think it's going to be a bracket situation. But what I don't want to
Can
see.
you afford to bracket the tight end when the other team has McCaffrey, Debo
Well, that's the
Samuel?
problem. Yeah, that's the problem, Jody. This is a difficult. This is sort of like what the Eagles fans don't realize what opponents have to deal with Brown and Smith, and this is the same thing. The Eagles got to deal with this, and if you try to take away one, the other's going to bite you. But what I don't want to see is Kaiser White carrying George Kittle 30 yards down the field. If I see that sort of Derek Brooks Tampa 2 style, that's not going to work out well for the Eagles.
I think he might be, when they go that dime, I think they may try to use McCaffrey a little bit more in that one, try to speed him up, or if they go keep saying nickel and try to get the ball to him that way and receive him, maybe try to get TJ Edwards to try to get them to get the matchup against TJ Edwards and try to attack the edges that way too. These running backs, there could be a lot of checkdowns. These running backs will play a big role in the passing game on both sides this week coming up.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Now that I'm thinking about it, what the Eagles got to do is affect the quarterback. I'm going to disrespect Brock Purdy again. Yeah, I mean, you can't deal with Kittle and Samuel and McCaffrey and Ayuk. You got to get the quarterback.
Yeah,
you got to get the quarterback. You got to speed up.
They got the guys to do it. They led the league in sacks. Probably not over Trent Williams' side because arguably the best left tackle in all of football. Sorry to say, Malata, you haven't gotten there yet. Haven't caught Mr. Williams yet. You may someday, but you haven't yet. Who's going to be the guy who's going to get the other side? Because they move guys around on the defensive line. But if you had to look specifically at the matchup, Eagles pass rusher against the vulnerable side of the 49ers offensive line. Who's going to be the guy who's going to get Brock Purdy off his mark and get a sack or two?
Reddit or McKitchney. That's the one I'm thinking. Like if it's almost like you're playing chess. You have to sacrifice, and it's not a slight at all any means of Josh Sweat, because I think he's the one to play right, and he'll get his rushes against there. I'd rather have Josh Sweat going against Williams, and then you have that matchup with Reddick going against McGlinchey around the edge and affecting his blind side, because I think he can get a strip sack potentially out of that as well too. Or you force him to move around, affect them that way. I think that's because if you just put Reddick on Williams best on best, all right, that's cool. I think Sweat can still, if you put Sweat to the left side, he might go on the right, but you put Sweat on the left side, he can still. I think he can beat McGlinchey, but I think Reddick can be more effective off of that side instead of
I would agree. I'm with you, Chris, because, nothing against Josh Sweat, as you said, but you're basically a sacrificial lamb going against Trent Williams. And that's anybody in this league.
Yep.
I can see this. I'm sorry.
And Hassan Reddick has the ability to, I think, speed rush. That's what McGlinchey has a problem with. It just makes sense. One of the best speed rushers. And Davis Webb was the one who said it. He in that week 18 game, he said Fletcher and Brandon were talking a lot of what about trying to get the sack record. And he said Reddick didn't say anything. He was the scariest one. He was just chasing him down. And he said he was the scariest one. Hassan Reddick is the scariest Eagle pass rusher. So let him go. Let him go against Mike McGlinchey.
Or if you want to do as well too, we saw this game plan before he got hurt. You blitz off the side in the slot. You get that cornerback. You try to force Williams to go out that way, and that way you basically have 5-on-5. You get Sweat to go against possibly a guard or running back, what have you, just to wade that way. You probably that's the way you get pressure on the left side as well too. So maybe we see Jonathan Gannon dial that one up too.
All right, last thing for you two tough guys who go down and attend the game every single week and fight traffic to get there and then get fed by the Philadelphia Eagles and sit in a nice comfort enclosed press box.
It's a tight press box, by the way.
At 71 degrees. Oh, by the way, it could be 50 at kickoff on Sunday. As of now, there's 6 days out on a 7-day forecast, but no precipitation in the 50s. Is Mother Nature doing the Eagles a disservice this week by not bringing some winter weather against a Northern California they haven't played a weather game all year long, San Francisco 49er team coming in? Is Mother Nature going, yeah, I'll give you a beautiful day, Eagles, deal with it?
It's been used to it. The way I'd be more worried if it's the other way around with everything that's going out in California lately, with all that wind and all that rain and everything that the 49ers had to deal with. And now you see what's going on here. I think it'd be the other way around, quite honestly. But I look at that. I think they'll still be fine no matter what. I think it actually benefits the Eagles a little bit more because I think if it gets inclement and that way too, you got to run the ball. And then we talked about what the way these 49ers have done with the run defense. So the fact it's a beautiful day.
So Mother Nature is doing the Eagles a solid. I like your
I think the Eagles would rather have a nice day too. The Eagles are explosive too, so I think they like it. And you go back to last year, San Francisco beat Green Bay in a weather game. You go back to yesterday, Cincinnati, as you mentioned, beat Buffalo in the snow game. Now Cincinnati's not Shangri-La, as you pointed out, but nonetheless, I don't like weather games because it affects both teams. And when you're explosive, you want to be able to do what you do on offense. And the Eagles are pretty stinking explosive. So I like it. I like nice weather for the Eagles.
And that looks like what you're going to get on Sunday. Chris Franklin, thank you very much for doing your usual Monday thing with us. We will shortly have you back next Monday. Win, lose, and no draw, no tie. Just win that coin flip so you can defer Nick Sirianni if it gets to overtime. Hopefully that's the case because there'll be a great show next Monday. It's always good when we got UCF. Thanks, bud.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate y'all. Have a good one now.
That is Chris Franklin. He's such
NJ.com, by the way. Make sure you read Chris at C Franklin News on Twitter.
Is Franklin too happy?
He's always happy.
That's what I mean. The guy is never in a bad mood. He never gets ticked off about anything. He's always got a smile on his face. What the hell is that all about?
He's a good dude. He's a good dude, man.
He's a very good dude. And he's good with us when he comes on. John McMullen, Jody McDonald coming back. We need to put a bow on the show. Stay right here.
My name is Fran Salerno. I'm a managing director here at Del Valle Insurance Group. Been in the business for over 36 years, saving people money on their insurance needs. Give us a call. Let us help you custom design an insurance plan that meets both your needs and budget.
Since 1977, it's always been about you, the community, at Rafferty Subaru. And through the Subaru Love Promise, we prove we care by supporting charities like So Good Now.
So Good Now helps kids in under-resourced areas by connecting them with student athletes to serve as mentors. We remove barriers so athletes can help youth in the corners of our communities where light and love are needed most.
When you choose Rafferty Subaru, you help organizations like So Good Now.
It's all about you at Rafferty Subaru.
Go for the beers, go for the cheers, go for the hit and the hits. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean.
We all know that taxes are just part of life. It's true during our working years, but also in retirement. But what you might not know is up to 85% of your Social Security benefits might be taxed. Our team at Thrive Financial has helped retire thousands of people across the Delaware Valley by asking questions they never knew they needed to ask, including how their Social Security benefits might be taxed. It's time to be proactive on taxes. Get your Thrive Retirement Tax Playbook today.
Post-game show with Seth Joyner.
I knew that they had a running game.
Derek Gunn.
He has put in the effort.
Devin Caney.
Had we not won the Super Bowl, what would we be saying?
And Mike Missinelli.
Well, you know who Philly is.
Post-game, now streaming on the 6ABC family of apps.
Good one here on Birds 365. We got to put a quick end to today's show. Oh, we'll be back tomorrow. And Rob Marty from the Associated Press, our bud, hasn't been on in at least a month. A couple scheduling issues and the like. So I'm very much looking forward to talking to Rob tomorrow. And John's going to lobby to get one of those AP All-Pro votes from Mr. Marty.
Yeah, man. I've already lobbied, Rob.
Lobby face
not working,
face.
It's not working out.
Get Rob when we get him up here tomorrow. All right. So what's the schedule look like? Back to regular week, right? No short week.
Back to regular week. Sunday game. So it'll be Happy Tuesday tomorrow. Nick Sirianni via Zoom today. Happy Tuesday, then walkthrough Wednesday. Big practice on Thursday. And then little Nick Sirianni behind the scenes on Friday for me. So, NFC Championship game week. Let's get it going. There's going to be a lot of extra people down at the NovaCare complex.
That's true. The national media will be coming in droves. So good luck dealing with that, John. And the biggest story is just from a reporting standpoint, Avonte Maddox, right? We're days away, and there's been no tipping of the hand. It's the only thing left. I asked you this last night when you came on my CBS show. What is Nick going to do to try and grab that competitive advantage? There isn't that much left to do. No, he lives for that. I guess it's Avonte Maddox. They're going to try and keep that under wraps.
Yeah, I imagine they'll try to. Now, the problem is you can't keep it completely under wraps because he's on the roster. They didn't put him on injured reserve. They never put him on IR, so if he practices, you have to put him on the practice report. If he doesn't practice, you have to put did not practice. So there's only so much he can do because he doesn't have that injured reserve status. They could have started his window, played the competitive advantage like that, and you'd say, is he going to play? Is he not going to play? There's only so much they can do, but he's important if they can get him on the field, especially for this game, because of all the issues the 49ers create in the middle of the field.
Yeah, they thought Purdy was not afraid to throw over the middle of the field against the Cowboys, and I don't think he will against the Eagles either. Having Avonte Maddox would be a big boost for the Eagles. But we got days to figure that out before we get to the championship game. We appreciate everybody streaming, and I think we did some large numbers today, over 700. Might have even
we cracked 800.
Did we get to 800? Appreciate all you guys streaming in. Be back here tomorrow, just 22 hours until Mac and Mac returns. Coming up next, Rick Saratella. Enjoy. We'll talk to you in the AM.
You've been listening to Birds 365, the destination for the passionate Eagles football fan who bleeds green. If it's Eagles football, we're talking about it. Debate, inside the locker room, and guests that are some of the greatest football minds from around the region. We hope you enjoyed the show. We know we had a blast. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hook up with us on social media at JAKIB Sports. See you next time on Birds 365.